Hi, and welcome to the best thing you watched this week with Chris from Movies and Munchies and myself from the Ruby Tuesday. This week, we're obviously going to be talking about Midnight Mass. We're very excited to talk about that. That's going to be one of our big topics for this week. But before we carry on, we just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up that for October, as it's going to be very Halloween-y, we thought we would theme it Halloween-y. And each week we're going to give a top 5 of a specialized genre. So listen out for that, hear out for that. However you're listening to this, if in the podcast, you will get your continued special at the end. If you're on the YouTube, welcome. Thank you for watching. I hope you find the YouTube month of October very exciting. We're excited to talk about some of our favorite scary, some of the worst horror films. We have a very interesting list. But for this week, coming back to this week, why don't we kick off with Midnight Mass? Chris, was it the worst thing you ever watched?
Oh my goodness, Midnight Mass is just a train wreck of a show. No,
I know, it's awful, right?
Oh my goodness, yes. What is wrong with people? No, this... Okay, so we'll kick this right off that this is going to be a spoiler discussion. So just if you haven't seen Midnight Mass,
Spoilers.
You're going to want to just skip through in the video or the audio for a bit. So let's just dive in. I mean, this is a vampire themed, religious, also themed horror. And Ruben, at what point did you realize or did you suspect that it was going to be a vampire-ish movie?
So this seems to be on varying levels. I watched it with my wife. She called it in the first episode. I told my sister the title, and she said, "That's vampire, right? Midnight Mass." And I immediately tried to steer the conversation away, going, "She's got to watch it. It's so interesting." But she's not going to watch it if she's guessed what's happening straight away. I, on the other hand, went, he's never done vampire. Surely it's not that. So we get to about episode 3, and I'm like, oh, it is. It really, really is. Where did you come in thinking vampire?
I think it was probably towards the endish of episode 1, but I wasn't certain. I mean, that was the thing. Like, I wasn't like, yes, this is exactly what it is. It was more of, well, I'm getting a vibe, like maybe just a little sense that it is that the vampires are going to be part of this. But even once we get to the end of episode 3, where it's actually confirmed, where we begin to see some of this, I still have no idea where the show is going. And that's what I really enjoyed about this, that it was still able to suck me in with a lot of its, the character and the religious aspect that they're bringing in there and how characters are using religion. And that, I think, becomes really the terrifying and the horrifying part of that, that it's not so much the vampire part of that. It's what people are using around there to build fear or to build, I don't even know what else to influence those around them. I guess.
I would say cult like status, that they go from perhaps a very reclusive community to now you've drunk the Kool-Aid, and to be in our club, you've got to drink the blood.
Yes.
And that it goes down a very dark path. You see it coming, and you still will them not to go down the path, because along the way you actually do like some of the characters. There's some that you love to hate. Obviously, like the woman who Bev, yeah, I mean, she just is evil. At that one point when that other woman speaks to her and says, "Just so you know, you're not actually a good person," and she was like, "How could you say that to me?" And you're like, "Yeah, but you really aren't. I mean, you're bad. It's through and through.
Terrible person."
Like the one person you wanted the vampire to take out and just didn't. And then my horror of, no, don't make her a vampire. Oh my gosh, she would be so much worse.
But I do like that she kind of gets her comeuppance. That there is a sense of justice for her that we as the audience get to experience. I mean, because she was the character that I loved to hate through this. I mean, I wanted very bad things to happen to her multiple times through the series, and that's even before I suspected her of killing the dog, which was terrible. And I honestly, like, from a piece of viewing, I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to watch the animal suffer like that. And it just, it was, that was a tough part.
People die. Animals, man. Don't do that.
Well, yeah, because they're pure of heart.
They're innocent. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one character that I didn't expect to die was the son, who I thought was the protagonist.
Riley.
Riley.
Yes.
And so we follow his story and we see how he's haunted by this car crash. And I really thought that was going to come into play. I thought he was actually haunted, which is something that was keeping me at bay, thinking this is not just a vampire thing. That he's waking up, the camera is tilting so creative, like it just goes like, and you're like, oh no, it's there. I know it's coming, and then it's there. And you're like, that's still creepy, man. I don't like it. And you realize that every day of his life, he wakes up since the crash, seeing that ghost. From jail to home, he is being tortured. There's nobody else could punish him more than his mind is currently punishing him. So I thought maybe he was actually haunted. I guess we'll never know, because he was able to keep at bay the demon side of the vampire turning. The vampire obviously wanted to turn him. So because at one point you think, oh, is he just going to munch on the woman he loves? And in the meantime, he had a whole plan, and he knew that he couldn't hold it at bay for long enough to help people. So in turn, he planned this letter to mom, letter to dad, letter to brother, letter to the woman I love, and then takes her on this romantic, the symbolism as well from his dream, from what he's having on the boat, seeing the ghost, and then taking her back out. It's like, oh, okay, it's all kind of meant to happen. And it's like, you're never going to believe me because you're all logic-based, and then boom, just that. And you're like, oh my gosh, they're actually doing it. They're just killing him off. Mike Flanagan, how dare you? I liked him.
That was shocking. It really was. But there was just that brilliant, is it symbolism? I don't know. Well, I'll just kind of vomit words and then maybe be able to piece them all together with the meaning. But where he, him bringing her out there, because all of the while we know that he has been turned, that he is a vampire. And so our whole expectation is they're going to be together. And this way for them to be together is he is going to turn her.
Yeah.
And then for him to explain that he didn't bring her out there for that. And you're like, wait, what? Oh my gosh.
And then you realize that the light is creeping.
Yes. Well, and the ability for him, because I do believe that he was haunted, maybe not necessarily ghost-wise, but it's the haunting of his own mind, that grief and that guilt that he feels the entire time, it eats him away. And so the moment when he accepts what's going to happen, you see the victim of his drunk driving, the girl who dies at the beginning, she's made whole. And right there in that second that it's kind of like his own forgiveness type of thing, that he is
penance almost.
Yeah. He's maybe it's come to terms with it. Maybe it's absolution. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how I fully land on that, but the fact that he is reconciled in that moment and then fully accepts his fate, for the benefit really of his love of his life.
Yeah. It was so sad because they had a chance. It was a second chance at life. Their love was blossoming. I could see their future. I could see him being a dad to this child that wouldn't be his. You just know he would love them. And you're like, this is the future for him. He's got a second chance. And they're both kind of broken. There's this one monologue scene where they're sitting on the couch and they're talking about death, really, and heaven. What does that look like? But beautifully crafted. Like some of the best monologue scenes. My wife was watching it and she's saying to me, "This is a scene that will be used in theater classes and acting classes to recreate that, just to kind of showcase what you can do just sitting on a couch, the emotion, because you could visualize what they were talking about, the stars and the way you would die, the beauty of what you hope the afterlife could be." And so it was like at that moment you're like, yeah, this is going the distance, man. But the genius, as Stephen King would say, the genius of Killing Your Darlings is that you are so much more invested with the people that are left behind. And so then you're on the woman's side. You're like, you're there with her the whole time. I mean, I was already there with her because one of the things is you're wondering what happened to her baby. Mm-hmm. And that was horrific. Like once it starts, you're realizing, well, her DNA basically that has been changed has eaten it because it's an infestation, isn't it? It's changing you. It's attacking you and changing you at the base level, which is why you can't even put your hand into the sun. So on one hand, we have this mysterious supernatural entity thing going on, but also science is kind of linking itself together. And then we have Mike Flanagan saying something about religion, which I wonder if you wanted to tackle a little bit.
Well, so yeah, it was unsettling for me a little bit, just coming from a Christian background. That the series didn't shake my faith. It didn't do anything like that. What really happened is it kind of, the words and the way that the script takes the character's use of biblical scripture and then twists it some is a little too on the nose for how society does that and how, people twist things for their own bent. So that tweaked my soul a little bit. Not as in a faith-shaking thing, but as more of a, ooh, that's actually very, very scary.
Yeah.
How people will use the religion and the religious themes for control, for manipulation, for whatever, and then to see what that does to people as it goes. And in this, we see the mob mentality play out, the fervor that grows from this. I think it was really well crafted, though. I mean, it's I can see how it will tweak a lot of people out and and turn them off from this, which fair enough. I'm not gonna, if you deal with your own spirit and stuff like that, how you view things. But for me, it was I was able to look at it almost from a critical eye of like, well, this is also how I view a lot of, self-professing Christians or believers or religious people, that you say this, but you use it like this. And that's where Bev becomes the embodiment of that, But I loved how, I can't remember the priest's name, but Hamish Linklater, who is the priest, the actor's the priest, how the priest believes in what's going on. He has bought into this redemption, this new life, whatever that is, from he calls the angel, which we know is just the creepy vampire, And so for him to I don't think it works if he doesn't believe it from a pure sense.
Yeah.
He has come from this was healing. This was, this gives
he was doing that tour of like the Holy Land.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it was there, that it happened there, must have been, well, I imagine that the character, if it was real, of course it's real, that's what he would have thought. This is a God moment.
Exactly. Yeah, I have been directed here. My body is failing. I'm aching. I'm dying, or dementia. All of these things that go, and then I am made new again. And it's like, Oh, okay.
Which is the references were so accurate. I mean, even the preach that he preaches a couple of times, like I've heard that preach, but taking it and putting it in that light, I'm just like, my goodness, the angel, the blood, the clothes, the symbolism. It's so easy to take that, all those things, and then just twist it to the thing that works for you. And then you're like, oh, well, that's how easy it is then. And I know this comes from a really personal place from Mike Flanagan, who I believe is, from a Catholic background. And so he's taking personal experiences and the love for it. It's not, I think he's himself has said it's not an attack on the Catholic Church at all. It's just part of the story. And then he's interwoven some fiction in there. And then we get the vampire bits as well. And I was just like, this must be how it happens, actually. If you look at some of the cult things that we've had and had stories about, and now we're going to sacrifice ourselves to God. God wills it. All the things that has been done in the name of war, in the name of God. And in my first port of call would be like, really? Okay. God is love, but let's wipe out this whole nation.
Yes.
Okay, I might be digressing, but anyway, I, as a tangent, I thought that was very, very clever. When talking about religion, we also had, and one of my favorite storylines in it, the Sheriff Hassan, and so we have his personal account, and I just thought it was so clever putting another religion as a counter to butt heads, but a personal story as a father who is trying to allow his son the freedom and space to explore what he wants to explore in his life. That is the correct thing to do as a father, but at the same time to protect them. And us as the audience screaming at the father, going, no, father more, because we know what the hell is going on. And so it creates this really interesting juxtaposition between father, like the father character and the church, and then us and him. And there's this three-way triangle, and we're like that. And it was that's clever writing.
Yeah. Now I have a question with Ali the son. Was it ever shown that Ali took communion at the church?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check.
Okay, because when we get to the climax in the second to the last episode where everybody is dying in the church and it becomes the bloodbath, and it just, I mean, that culmination of all kinds of events there.
Yeah.
When Ali drinks the poison, and that is a gut check moment. I mean, you the father, from a father standpoint, you're like, oh my gosh, no. You know what I mean? That helplessness, that absolute sheer terror that the sheriff feels at looking at his son willingly taking this poison, fully believing, that it's going to be okay. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, the kid never took communion. I mean, he had visited the church, but he never took communion. He's going to die. It's not, he's not going to come back. And so I was shocked that he did come back, that he came back to life.
If you remember, in the decanter, the priest would mix the blood of the vampire. So I thought in the poison was the blood.
It is. Well, with communion, though. See, that's why all of the church members were okay if you had taken communion. And that's why, like, even the girl who was able to get up out of her wheelchair because her body had been healed from this. But I didn't know, and so that's where I didn't remember being shown that Ali took communion.
I thought in the poison was some of the blood.
Oh, I misunderstood you. Okay.
But I don't know, because they never show us what's in that. So if maybe to make sure that they come back, you poison them, but they drink in the blood. But
they drink the blood at the same time. Well, that's interesting. Okay, that.
But if they don't show us, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because we don't see. I don't know. That it was not. This wasn't a major point for me. This wasn't something like I was like, oh, well, this falls apart and everything else. It was just more of like, I really expected that to be almost like a conflict moment, not only with the dad and the son, but those around seeing. You know what I mean?
Right,
that Ali drinks this, he dies, and he stays dead. And that would have been,
Oh, yeah.
It's
That'd have been
still, though,
interesting.
the way it plays
You know
out.
what
with him
Bev would have said, though, yeah? He's not worthy.
Well, of course. That's twisting it for how she wants to.
And she was hiding.
Yes.
She was hiding.
A terrible person. Terrible person. I mean, she is the one that you want to...
Seriously.
You wanted to die, but you didn't want to come back.
Okay, so I do have a point that might make it all fall apart. So maybe you can explain this to me. All right, so we've established vampires and sun in the lore. We've established Batman, and we've established drinking the blood turns you. And so we know they got to keep in the dark to survive, right? So they burn all the boats, they burn all the houses, and we're saying they couldn't survive that? Like, literally, I've seen so many vampire movies where they dig in the ground and they cover themselves and they go to sleep and they wake up the next morning. True Blood used to do that. Vampires bursting out of but there were definitely, like, you could have turned over bits of wood, husks thing, and just like covered yourself in. So my wife has an explanation of saying that the people at some point had realized what they had done. Waking up to the realization, even though they turned that they killed their neighbors and friends and children, and it was a way for them to stop what was happening. I guess you could explain it like that, but what do you think?
Yeah, I can see that, and I can see that certainly in some of the characters, especially I don't remember his name, but he was kind of the he was Bev's second in command. He was the one who, him,
Yeah.
and when he talks with the altar boy,
Yeah.
at the end, and is like, yeah, I've done some bad things tonight too. They have this moment of regret,
Yeah.
And I think you begin to see some of that go through. I think also when Henry Thomas and his wife start singing, and they're singing that hymn, and the whole town slowly joins in, I think at that moment, there is that. It might be a little convenient, sure, but it's an opportunity for them to all have this reckoning together, that they see what they have become and how maybe it doesn't line up with what they have said they believed all the way through. And so this is their opportunity to just accept it, to go. But we watch Bev furiously digging in the dirt or in the sand there to try and, and cover up, which I think also is very fitting because she was the one who was like, yes, burn the houses, burn them all, just desserts right there. But yeah, I do believe that it's a moment of closure, maybe, for them, for the characters to just accept their fate of the sun is coming up. We have done terrible things to our friends, to our loved ones, to our neighbors. And I'm not sure we can live with ourselves knowing this. And so therefore we're going to accept the fate, accept the judgment, however you want to look at that from that point, and just will cease to exist. I mean, because I think there's a lot of mourning that goes in, because a lot of them, they've lost so much even before that. You have the Henry Thomas and his wife, they've lost, for what they know, I mean, they've lost one son and now they can't find their younger one. So they've lost both of them. Just the mayor and his wife, their daughter is missing. They've lost her, yeah.
Okay, so right at the end, we have the two survivors. They're in the boat, and there's that line. She goes, I can't feel my legs. And so you think of that as the moment where the Dracula character has died, or that the power has come out of her. Because if you go back a few episodes, they talk about if you leave the blood long enough, if you don't have enough of it, it will go back to how it was. So in my thinking, that's what that means. Because we never actually see the bat creature die. We see him dip into the mist, but there's no guarantee that he's dead. So I know this is a limited series, but if, because of how popular it is and how popular it becomes, and he has another story to tell, like this Amish town, because this character, we don't actually know what it is. I mean,
Correct.
We think it's a vampire. It does the things about a vampire that we think it is. It has bat-like wings. It infects you. It's interesting the way it doesn't talk, but it speaks to your mind. Mm-hmm. So it has some sort of telekinesis. But it messes with religion. So it messes with you where you're at, the thing that it can twist your mind in. So it obviously got all the memories from this guy in that instant when he drank the priest's blood. He must have gained all the knowledge from the priest in that moment to understand how to manipulate him, to cut off everybody on the island, to make it sure that they infect themselves so he could make more. And I feel like his plan was to go off then from the island and infected more people. Like, so was he going to be the leader, or what's going on there? Am I reading too much into it?
I can see the once the town is overtaken, once the island is overtaken, then them going out onto the mainland to spread this infection. I can definitely see that. And I believe that because they just hadn't taken blood for a while, where she can no longer feel her legs, that it's just kind of the body is working itself out of that. Because in this, even though I know that it's kind of vampiric lore in some movies or stories, that, you know, if you kill the main vampire, it takes care of everybody else. But that's never established in this.
No. And so nothing's really established. Yeah,
exactly. So I think we have to go more along the lines of, you know what, it was science based.
Yeah.
That, yeah, the body has rid itself of these impurities over time. But that leads me to the question: is it because the priest was drinking the blood regularly? But see, he had been turned also. How is he able to go out into the light?
Yeah, it did seem like his transformation was slower. So he went from being really old to really young. But so he was fed on, but he didn't drink the blood.
No, he did. That's how he came back. So in the cave,
oh yes, yeah, it cut its.
Yeah, it slit its wrist.
And then
he drank from that.
So technically, the transformation goes at different times? Because it was days later until he couldn't. Suddenly he was back home. How long did it take him to get home? A couple of days, maybe a day.
Even if it was a couple of days, he was there. You know what I mean? He's on the town for 1 to 2 days in the sun that we see him. Whereas the people at night, when they get
that is a bit of a flaw. I'm not.
Yeah, it's more of a question. I mean, it doesn't make me like the series any less. It's just it's really, I was like, well, how did
he survive for so long?
Yeah, did I miss something? Is there, or is it just maybe? Well, that was just. We're going to gloss over that a little bit just for the.
I mean, it is story. A series I wouldn't mind watching again.
Yeah,
just because it's so beautifully done.
Absolutely,
we'll pick up some of the nuance and the subtleties, because it's again in his tweets. Mike Flanagan, he's done like a Bible. It's so long. He's got like paragraphs of like what like it means to him, and so he was really talking about it. And one of the things he speaks about there is just how much detail they painstakingly went into for like every scene to make sure that that was his vision. It was a love project. So yeah, I'd been interested to know, like on a fly in the wall, of what were the conversations about moments like that, because it must have been a big part of the thinking of, okay, how does this work?
Absolutely, yeah, and maybe just didn't make it in the cut. I don't know. But again, it's not something that that ruins the experience for me. It's more one of those things that just kind of sits in the back of your head and you go, well, I wonder about this, you know, because I'm still, I mean, the slow burn of the drama, the horrifying acts that then take place, and still not being absolutely sure till we get really toward the end of what's going on, you know, and what this purpose is. And I do think, I had seen some comments from some people that they're like, I tapped out after an episode and a half because it was just really slow. And I'm like, well, you can't do that. See, this is one that you have to let it breathe. It's not rushing its storytelling, but it's effective in its storytelling. And I liked that, you know, we spend so much time just learning the town and seeing all of these familial interactions and these character moments that then we have to have those set up, because otherwise there's not the gut punch at the end when all of these sequences happen. You know, if they're just people and they just become vampires or they just turn, it's like, okay, there's no emotional, you know, any emotional weight to that, to any of the sacrifices or the fear or anything else that happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's one that you have to allow to build. I know not everybody's into that, slow burns. I think you could also be upset if you come into this thinking that it's horror and you're just going to be scared and thrilled the whole way through. I think it has horrifying moments, and I think there's a tone of scariness there the whole time. It keeps you on edge. But like Mike Flanagan he's quite diverse in his portfolio when it comes to this sort of work, going from The Haunting of Hill House to Bly Manor, two very different stories, very different feels to them.
Very.
One very scary, one tragic. Like it just feels like a tragedy. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what else he does in the future, because he goes from strength to strength, I think.
Absolutely. And it's fun to watch him just craft these new, I mean, he's making himself almost this horror universe that aren't necessarily tied together. Yeah. You know, so yeah, I am like you, very intrigued on what his next project will be, where he's going, you know, and all the while still trying to tamper my expectations so that they don't exceed, you know, and become unrealistic for what somebody might be able to produce.
So I think we should move on, because we've loved on this Midnight Mass for half an hour.
Yes. All right. What do you have as the best thing you watch? What's one of the things on your list?
Okay, so I have three things. There's Wolfboy and the Everything Factory, Foundation, and superhero story. Doom Patrol. Gosh, my brain. Doom Patrol season 3.
Okay.
Pick one.
Let's do Wolfboy. I don't know anything about that. Tell me about this.
This is an Apple original animated series. It's got 10 episodes, and it's definitely aimed at a young demographic. It follows Wolfboy as he discovers a strange realm at the center of the earth where fantastical beings create things for the world above. So at the outset, you could go into this thinking this is very young. Some of the voice work feels like you would be watching an episode of Dora the Explorer. But as the stories unfold, you start realizing the story is much darker than you initially thought. It feels like you could watch it with your kids, and you could be watching a one story arc and they might be seeing something totally different. There are references to things going on that I don't think all young people will understand, and adults again will understand. So very similar to Pixar. The story itself is very intriguing, because the more you watch, you realize it has a message of the day, like the moral of the story. You will learn something, your character will learn something. It will teach kids about bullying. It teaches, tackling things like death and sorrow, just about life things, but in a really very visual, bright colors. Like imagine very bright color series, like very similar to that Netflix series we watched recently with the unicorns.
Oh, Centaur World?
Centaur World, yeah.
Okay.
So it's got imagination like that. Every episode kind of takes you to a new location at the center of the earth. The premise is there's these sprites that control everything from your mind, like creating mind stuff, to creating clouds, like everything you can imagine. It's the imagination factory. And they're there, but there is a prophecy that this boy has more to him than meets the eye. And the Wizard of the Day, who is voiced by... which had me intrigued, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and
Really?
I didn't recognize it was him at all until I was doing some research on this, and then I realized it was from the imagination of his company Hit Record. I don't know if you know about that.
Oh, Hit Record. Yeah.
Hit
yeah.
Record, yeah. And so it's spawned out of that, and so you have really creative people behind the process, people that are like the animation people that did Kung Fu Panda. And so there's this great talented team behind, and the more you watch, the more intrigued you get into the story. And then when you hit those last couple of episodes, you're like, why are you leaving it like that? How dare you? It's one of those that you just really want to know what's going on next. I think it's absolutely perfect for family viewing. Young families are going to love this. I think people that love to watch animated shows and unashamedly, going, yeah, I'm 40 something, I get these on my reviews, but I love animation. There's something that you can do with animation that you can't do with live action. There's a lot of maybe sometimes nuances that you can visually show through the bursting of whatever's coming out of your mind, to emotional moments that you can literally show in color or in weird creations. And that has it here in spades. So it was just one of those animations that you start off watching because I'm reviewing it, and then you're like, wait a minute, this is actually pretty good. And then you're like, oh, that's way darker than I expected, but in a very subtle way. I was pleasantly surprised with this.
Nice. Now, is it a weekly release, or did they release?
I believe
all the
they
episodes?
Released all 10, so you don't have to wait.
Okay.
Weekly. They just jumped it on. I think that's right.
And are they like 30-ish minute episodes, or are they?
They're 25 minutes
Okay.
a piece.
Okay.
And as far as I know, there's nothing at the end of the credits. So you don't have to watch. You can just like click over to the
Click
next.
over next episode. Keep binging, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all out now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
It's really fun. Yeah. I think that was a nice little find.
Right on. Well,
So
that's
what's on your list, Chris?
top of my list is Intrusion on Netflix. No, I am kidding. That is a terrible movie, and nobody should watch it. It was
My heart just broke a little bit.
Sorry, I couldn't help that. No, you know what? I binged a series yesterday called Ganglands.
I'm so glad you brought this up. Great. Okay.
Yeah, it's a French / Belgian crime drama that is based off of some characters from a movie from several years ago from the creator.
From the same name?
Seen. Yeah, well, not in English. It translates different in English, but it was basically the same word in well, I'm not sure if it's French or Flemish. Yeah. The series is kind of a mixed bag for me, but I think if you enjoy Snabacash or Snabacash, it was that's a movie series and then a series also, and Gangs of London. This is a light mix of those. Now, I still think that if you don't go in thinking Gangs of London, that is a brilliant show.
That's an incredible show.
Just, oh my goodness, I love that. But this one, it's I was surprised by the amount of fun I had with it and how invested in the characters I got, despite all of the conveniences and the coincidences that you have to accept that go in to this story that's being told. I mean, it really is like Alexander in the Very Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Yeah, great title.
Yeah, exactly. you have these characters who then, because of a decision they make, it causes turmoil, and they get in trouble with another group. And so somebody has to come in to help them get out of that. But in the course of that, more dominoes fall, and now the people that came in to help are caught up in the turmoil as well, and there's new turmoil, and then you have, family from over here and bad guy from over here who are infighting and having their own drama, and they're not innocent bystanders by any means. They got themselves involved in this, but now they're tied up in the entire thing as well. And I think it grew on me the more I watched. I enjoyed some of the action. I think some of the action was done really well. The thing that shocked me, I think, the most is how they were willing to kill off some characters. That was, I was like, no, you're not going to. Oh, you did. And then you're left wondering, where are you going to go from here? There was a point where I thought the show was ending, and then it continued on. So like I enjoy, overall I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, but it's not something that I'm like, break down the walls to binge again. But that being said, I'm on board for a second season. I want to see, more of this, because the characters are flawed, like to such a degree that I want to watch more of them, and I want to see what else happens with them. I hope, though, that it doesn't become, if they do a second season, that it's not the same just massive set of coincidences that go in. That let's just, maybe either take them off on a different story arc, or I don't know. I don't know exactly what I expect, but it did surprise me to a degree. So if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It's 6 episodes, like 45 minutes each. Definitely bingeable. I would say good for a casual watch, but if you're not a Flemish or French native speaker, then it's not that casual, because you have to pay attention to the subtitles. I did not turn on the dubbing to see how that was, but I'm pretty anti-dubbing anyway, so I'm not sure it would be very good.
So I watched the first episode and a half this morning, so I haven't finished it. But I have to say, I was hooked on episode 1. I was into the characters. I was emotionally engaged with the characters, even though they were making stupid decisions. Like, I felt there's one group of characters that are professional, and I was like, dang, they know what they're doing. And there's another group of younger, not so professional, that, dang, they don't know what they're doing. And then, like you said, there's like coincidences to continue the story, even in the first episode. So there's a moment that basically messes them up because a character leaves something behind at a scene. I was just like, really? That's the thing that's going to get you in trouble? I know you're bad at what you're doing right now, but it's really...
and it's so obvious.
It's so obvious. Yeah. Like, we know where that's going to end up. But I really like some of the characters. One of the main protagonists, who's the leader of this really professional group, who is tormented by a thing that he's done in his past or been a part of. And like, I really like that. You see, and the family like just doesn't like him, but now the family has to incorporate him because their worlds have collided. And you see how, people not normally in those worlds are incorporated into that. And you're like, but you just got to do what you got to do to protect your family, man. So that all of your morals are suddenly out of the window. Yeah, do what you got to do. I want my family protected. Doing very well not to do spoilers here. And then there were characters I just liked. I knew they were going to get themselves into trouble. I knew that they were just like, you're going to make bad decisions, but I really like you. I like, and yeah, I'm probably going to die for sure. But I was surprised at how much I enjoyed what I've seen of it. Does it finish on a cliffhanger then, considering you were saying that it might have a second season? Was it a contained story, but they leave it a little bit?
It's not a cliffhanger, but I don't feel that it's resolved.
Right.
Like,
okay.
that it... it honestly, it like I want them to have a second season fairly quickly because I want to continue the momentum that was being built. They did do a whole fade to black screen, and then several months later, that's how they end the series or the season. But there's a lot of story potential there, and things are not wrapped up. I mean, you have some closure to certain things, but the majority is still wide open, I think.
Okay. Well, I watched Doom Patrol Season 3. Warner Brothers sent me the first half, so the first 5 episodes. I believe the first 3 episodes dropped on HBO Max. It wasn't an original on HBO Max, but, just like HBO's buying everything and under that Warner and umbrella, it's there now. One of the things that people love about this series, even though it's DC, it makes Suicide Squad look like the tamest thing that you've seen ever, because it's so bonkers, it's so in your face. It'll have full-on nudity when it wants to, it'll have full-on swearing like non-stop when it wants to, it'll have the goriest gore when it wants to, and the storyline is never simple. It is bonkers. And I think that's kind of what people expected from these very, very broken people. So the arc has always been a thing that it stays at the background. So you have an arc, and it's very interesting, but it's always been about how messed up the characters are. They have real family brokenness, and it's those family adventures that are already a big part of the arc. So there's one character that has a place called the Underground, and she has multiple personalities, and in the Underground they all live there in various different stations, different carts, and they're always fighting for who's going to be the personality that's going to be on top. But as part of that, some of them have different powers, and so that's where it comes into play. You have Brendan Fraser, who's possibly done the best role he's ever done in a tin can. So it's basically voice work and robotic movements, but he's incredible. Like this season, I was just in love with his character. He's unashamedly just that character that will swear a lot and be pissed off at the world, but knows that he's wrong. It's that sort of character. You have daughter-father relationship that is like heightened to the max level, like is a big core part of the storyline. But again, we're just going for the brokenness of the family. It reflects in this series. You see what good superheroes are meant to look like, as a reflection to them as them. They're meant to be Doom Patrol, but they're anything but. Like, they're just broken. You don't know that if they get a mission, it's because the world's ending, but, they may make it worse, a lot worse. And then they probably caused the thing that's happening. It's that sort of storyline. Minor spoiler, just so I can tantalize you to make sure that you need to watch this. There's a scene, so if you haven't watched it yet, I'm talking a spoiler in a specific episode now, just for it. Okay, there's a scene. I'm setting the scene for you in a barn. They're meeting a character who has caught someone else, so it's like an exchange sort of thing. The Doom Patrol go into this. There's a new character that we think is the leader or an enemy of the Doom Patrol, but she has arrived. She's one of the characters from Doctor Who. She was like a bad guy character, the Master or something. She's an incredible actress. So it's really funny because you think she's really bad, but she doesn't know because she can't remember. She's a time traveler. So she's just there trying to figure out what's going on. Anyway, there's one guy that they come to meet, says, "Oh, but let me show you why you're really here." Basically, he turns around, pulls down his trousers, and his butt becomes a mouth with many, many jagged teeth. And then he tilts his butt to the sky and howls at the sun because there's no moon. And what happens is he calls a horde of other butt wolves to come and attack them. And so you have a fight with Crowley from Supernatural, because he's one of the characters there, with his flaming sword, Tin Man smashing and squishing butts. It's just all out crazy, amazing action sequences, but they're basically fighting teeth butts, wolf dog things. That is Doom Patrol in a nutshell.
If that doesn't entice you to see it, oh my gosh, that is the visual that I have painted in my head is absurd.
It's fantastic. Yeah. You have to watch the show. It's so good.
I started to watch it when it was on DC Universe. And so I think I watched like the first half of season 1, or maybe the majority of season 1. And then just fell off.
Yeah, because there's so much to watch all the time. Yeah. But...
yeah, I'll have to hop on because they're all on HBO Max now.
Yeah.
And binge that. Yeah. Well.
You might need to watch something normal afterwards. Something really drab.
Well, I do remember the randomness of it, and that was part of the appeal for the show itself, is that it took itself seriously, but not seriously enough. And so you could have, they could have a lot of fun with the scenarios and the situations that they put their characters in. They could create some real peril, but also there's still that absurdity that is going
it's
up
all about
and
how
down within there.
It's like self-reflection, how they learn to grow up, but in that self-reflection, the situation then that they find themselves in is in somebody's mind that is made up of clowns. It's just bonkers. Yeah.
Outstanding. All right.
So what else have you got on your list?
This it came out in theaters and then it was on Netflix. I think it premiered at TIFF this week, and it surprised me. Now, it's not getting it wasn't getting as great reviews from a lot of people, but I think you saw it, The Starling, with Melissa McCarthy and Chris O'Dowd, and it surprised me, really. I mean, it was we've talked about this before with Melissa McCarthy, just when she goes into these dramatic roles, that she still is able to do some comedy. But she was broken, and she was grieving in this. And the story itself is just sad, that you have her and Chris O'Dowd as a couple who have suffered a great loss in their life. And they're both dealing with grief in their own way, and they're on separate journeys. And you hope that at some point they're going to find their way back to each other. So you have Chris O'Dowd, who's just he's finding refuge and trying to get help inside a mental facility where he can talk to patients, or at least just get meds, sit in group. And there are some powerful moments with him dealing with some of his grief as he they're outside during this one family day or something like that, and he
incredible scene. Yeah.
It was heartbreaking. He takes part to play with some kids that had invited him to play in this, but he takes it over, and he just, and you see in this moment all of this grief and this anger and everything building up within, and he's not taking it out necessarily on the kids, but it's bubbling over, and it's scaring people and everything. It was really good, and
it's a great performance that moment.
Yeah, Kevin Kline is in this also as a former psychologist turned veterinarian, and just he's dryly funny, which I think he always is, and that's just his delivery. He and Melissa McCarthy, their interactions work really well. It was touching. There was wisdom imparted, and some humor, and so just the whole thing. It's not a perfect movie. I think the CGI of some of the bird, because he has the reason for the Starling is we find out it's a territorial bird, and it has made its nest in Melissa McCarthy's yard, and so anytime she goes out there, it attacks her.
It's not having any of it.
No, it makes for some funny moments in there. And I think the levity is needed to break up a little bit of the sadness that is permeating, but it also that provides the moments for Melissa McCarthy's character to grow and to work through some of her own grief, her own anger, her own issues, especially when she has that interaction with the bird at one moment, and her action does not lead to she meant it and she didn't, all at the exact same time. And so she had this instant moment of regret, and just we watch that progression of her then having to deal with the aftermath and working through that, which then is really mirroring and really facilitating her own growth and her own reconciliation with her own grief.
Yeah. The Kevin Kline character, I really wanted to know more about, because I felt like they had touched on his brokenness as well. There's a reason why he's a veterinarian and went from being, a psychologist or working with people to working with animals. And you see his massive reluctance to even wanting to work with Melissa Gother's character. And so you kind of want to know, because he's as broken as these other two people. And so in a way, they're all learning and going on a journey themselves. And I've heard a few reviewers use that as a criticism. It's like, oh, this is so obvious. This is a learning thing. Oh, what's this person going to learn now? Oh, what's this person going to learn now? There's a Mark Kermode, who's very well respected here in the UK, and he really didn't like this film. Like, he thought it was one of the worst films he's seen this year. And so that takes me back, because I thought it had a good amount of emotional impact. I'm not going to sit here and say, it's the best film I've seen this year. It's not by a long shot. No. But it's definitely one of the best performances I've seen from Melissa McCarthy. Mm-hmm. And it has a lot to say. I think that I imagine that some people have gone through this sort of loss will really take to heart and might even help, because it's a real thing, losing anyone. And the way that people react is so different. So it might give people just the knowledge of, it's okay for me to act like this because that's how my body's dealing with it. Her husband needs medication. He needs to be surrounded by people and help. She needs to be alone and in her mind and deal with the stress that way. And so I think it shines a light at how we all deal with grief. And I thought that was beautiful. I thought that was really quite powerful. So if that's the message you get from it, I'm all for it. Like, Melissa, do more of those.
Absolutely.
And she's perfect in 9 Perfect Strangers, right?
So good. Yes. Yeah. She is so great in that show. Oh, man.
So what I had last was Foundation. I know I've been hinting at this for a few weeks. And the response has been mixed. Really? The first 2 episodes dropped. It feels like it should have been a feature, so maybe they shouldn't have split the 2 episodes up. They're over an hour long each, and it feels like you could have just done, here's a feature, and now we're going to do weekly. And so that's what's going to happen. They're doing weekly episodes from now on until it finishes. I would say that I can understand that some people might say this is boring because it's very slow, monologue heavy, but visually, I just thought, it's on par with some of the sets that you get on Game of Thrones and Dune. It's that kind of epic. The world they're creating is vast. Make sure you don't get the title wrong, because I said Foundations with an S instead of Foundation, and some people really didn't like that. And don't get Isaac Asimov's name wrong either. Man alive, the internet is waiting for you to make a mistake. Yes, like what you call Nazi grammar police. Yes. My friends always pick me up on that one. It's there, not there. They're over here. There. Yes, I think it's loosely based on the novels of Foundation by Isaac Asimov. But at the same time, there are some incredible performances that really lend themselves to the science fiction world building that these episodes do. So the first few episodes, even though the first episode has quite a bit of action, so I'm not quite sure there, but the second episode is very world building. Third and fourth, again, it does that kind of Witcher thing where, I better not say Harry Potter, someone didn't like that either, where it jumps around in time. Okay, and that can be hard to follow, but I think it's very clear in this series, like which time frame and which characters you're following. But bearing that in mind, you're following a lot of characters. But by the time you get to episode 5, it's very much, okay, now we've built this world. You understand some of the rules, the houses, what they belong to, who's doing what. You probably like some of the characters now that you didn't really like at the beginning because you thought they were just evil. It's like the royalty family at the beginning. I really didn't like. It was like, oh, these guys just suck. But by the time you get to episode 5, you kind of see why they suck. And so you feel for them. And then you you think you know who the protagonists are or the good guys are, and it kind of switches that up as well. So episode 5 is you've got a bunch of questions, and then it kind of gets more into the arc, moves forward from like halfway through. And I was just like, yeah, man, this is great. This is really fun. If you like big Odyssey, epic sci-fi, this should be your jam. It should be on your list. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and it's incredibly hard to take a work that's this complex and make something coherent out of it. I think they've done a fairly good job.
Right on. Well, do you think that the series itself might be better served if like people waited until maybe episode 5 was out so that they could then binge? So because you know, because you got to review it early, you got the opportunity to see it not play out week by week. And
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you know, sometimes shows, they do take a while to grow on you. But I think sometimes the downside of the weekly part of that is that if you haven't gotten to maybe a meat part of it, you know, and you expect me to watch over several weeks, I may wane or fall off because I don't know why I'm watching. You know, I'm intrigued by it. It doesn't mean I don't like it, but it's hard to go back to. And I think this sounds
absolutely.
Okay.
I kind of wish this was a Netflix original because you could binge watch it. You know, 2 or 3 nights, you'll be done. I would say you feel like it's really long, and maybe those first 2 episodes, you're like, wow, I'm not going to be able to watch all of this in one go. But then the 3rd episode drops back down to 45 minutes. It's kind of standard runtime. And you just kind of fly through the episodes. Well, I did. So obviously my cup of tea. I've changed my rating system from letters to how many Nicolas Cages do you get. So now that's a thing. So I think I gave it 4 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
Well, Nicolas Cage from what movie?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. The rating system is terrible mental at 1 and leaving Las Vegas at 5.
Okay.
So you Face Off in 3. I don't know.
Oh, the Face Off is brilliant.
I love it. Face Off.
Yeah. Oh goodness. All right. Well, we're coming up to long, so let me. I'm going to hit one last thing really quickly, and this is on. I think we have a theme going through this where we find some terrible stuff that you may or may not want to watch.
Oh no! What have you watched?
Oh goodness. Okay, so my daughter-in-law turned me on to this. It's called House of Anubis, and it's playing on Paramount Plus. It's an actual Nickelodeon show from 2011, and it has the same production values as Land of the Lost from the mid-'70s.
Nice.
The camera work looks like this. And it was funny because my daughter-in-law was like, this is atrocious. Do not watch this. This is going to be right up your alley. No. She knows me so well. And she's like, you're going to love this. And I'm like, sweet. I can't wait. And, oh my gosh, it's terrible. It's like a, oh goodness. The bad thing about the show is that it believes it's good.
Oh no, really? It takes itself seriously.
Oh, it takes itself so seriously, and it is it is a chore to watch. And the bad thing is that the episodes are like 40-ish minutes long.
Seriously.
And oh yeah, no, it's way too long.
Oh, is it like a Harry Potter sort of thing?
It's kind of like a Harry Potter. They make Harry Potter jokes. They make Twilight jokes. You have this, basically what it is this American girl goes over to the UK for a boarding school-ish type of thing, and the house that she's in is called House of Anubis, and there is all kinds of drama within the house that I don't totally understand yet, and there are mysteries hidden within the house that they have to kind of uncover, which they might then get treasure.
Yes.
Ish.
So, now that you've started watching it, are you going to watch all 146 episodes of it?
I am not.
Did you know that there were that many?
I what is wrong with people? What? No, I am not. Oh my goodness.
146 episodes.
That is, well, because it was only like 3 years, wasn't it?
That's a lot of episodes.
That's a lot. That is no. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. This is one that I
Wait, how
will
did
not
they
finish.
do that? Because from 2011 to 2013,
Yeah, I
how
don't know
many
how many.
episodes did they do? That's incredible. Okay.
Yeah, this is not one. I mean, if you have Paramount Plus and you're looking for like the worst of the worst teen soap operas, and you want a good laugh, but painful to get that laugh, you can watch it. I mean, just check out the first 10 minutes, and it is you'll look at this, and I mean, from the way the camera moves to the camera quality to just everything, the set design, the way that the characters interact, the dialogue delivery. I mean, it is a train wreck from the moment it begins, and the way that the characters deliver their lines, they fully believe it. They are invested. So kudos to them for getting in this, but it is just not good. Yeah, no.
Oh my gosh, I'm just scrolling through season 2, and there are 45 episodes in season 2. So
Oh my goodness, that
gives you an idea.
That's too many, and it's just not good.
45 too many.
Yeah, 45 too many. Yeah, no, don't. Yeah, no. Anyway, that's
Okay, wow. So, what are you looking forward to?
This week we've got some 007, Venom, the Chestnut Man on Netflix, which I'm really looking forward to.
I have to say that's higher than like Venom and Bond for me for some strange reason. I'm really excited about it.
It is high. It's me too. Yeah. And then The Guilty, which I'm hesitant on this. This is the Jake Gyllenhaal one that is the remake of the 2018 Danish film.
Yes.
And so next week I think we'll be able to talk about this because I want it to be good. I'm curious if it will be, especially knowing how good the original was.
Yeah. I've got some anime I'm very excited about coming this week, including the ones you've said. There is No One Gets Out Alive, I think, which looks interesting. That's not anime, just a horror film.
That horror, yes.
Yeah. But Baki Sama, I think I mentioned it, this boxing one that's just balls out. I'm going to kick the crap out of you. Anime. And then there's the completion. That's not a word. Completion to the 7 Deadly Sins anime. It's the film that's finally going to complete the 6th series. I think fans are really excited about that. We had the last few episodes of the final episodes seasons dropped this week, and then they're going to finish the story. Hopefully, I don't know that you can finish anime very well. It's very hard to do, to wrap everything up. But maybe they'll put the characters in a place where it's satisfying enough. Fingers crossed. I don't know that is quite possible. We will see. And I don't know if you've ever watched... well, you must have. There is a South African director who wanted to direct an Aliens movie, never got to, but does sci-fi films. Neil Blomkamp. Yeah. Have you heard of him? He does.
I think I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. He did District 9, Elysium. Yeah. So Netflix is, I presume it probably is UK and US, bringing out Oat Studios.
Yes.
Season 1. They're putting that on the platform. I'm excited. I've seen it already because it's all on YouTube.
Okay.
Maybe they're taking it off and they've got the rights to it. But I'm excited for more people to see it, because the more people that see his work means that we have a chance of getting more work from him, which means that we might finally get a sequel to District 9, because they left that on massive cliffhanger, or that we might finally see him do an Aliens movie. Now, if you go and watch Oat Studios, there are shorts. Some of them are 45 minutes long. Some of them are 2 minutes long. But they are so creative, and they did it with such a small budget. You'll be blown away with what they... Small guys in the warehouse, probably like 6 to 10 man team max. And what they create is incredible. They had people on there like Sigourney Weaver doing some of the shorts, like A-listers that just want to be involved with him because they know what he can do.
Nice.
He did some stuff like on Steam. He put a whole bunch of the back end creative stuff for you to buy for free, like at a really low cost. So some of the stuff, the blender mechanics of how he made his characters move. So if you want to try and take some of that stuff and work with it, he did that creatively. He's just trying to allow people the freedom and space to be able to use his stuff, which I think is great.
That is.
It helps that he's South African, so maybe a little bit biased towards him that way, but yeah. So we're looking forward to all of that.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we've reached probably the end of our video portion of this. If you want to check out the bonus audio, you can head over to Spotify and listen to the podcast of the best thing we watched this week. Just as a reminder, though, coming up for the entire month of October, we are doing our top 5 horrors, and kicking it off the first weekend in October, it is our top 5, our personal favorites, or maybe even scariest horrors. And so that, looking forward to what we each bring to this. Knowing that how much you love horror movies. This is going
to be an interesting month.
It's going to be great. So we're going to have a lot of fun. Hope you all join us for that. As always, thank you so much for tuning in to and watching us on the best thing we watched this week. We want to know, what's the best thing that you watched? What are you currently binging? What are you looking forward to? What did we talk about in here that you agree or disagree with? There has been a lot of content, discussed. Stay away from House of Anubis unless you like trash, and then totally binge that. All 100 and something episodes of it. But, check out Ruben at the Ruby Tuesday. Me, I'm Chris with Movies and Munchies, and we will see you next time. Take care.